In the depths of Reddit, I came across that BCM does not recommend suppressing the enhanced lightweight barrels, as some of you may have known. Important information about suppressing the BCM uppers barrels, specifically the enhanced lightweight. We'll talk about some other barrels. We got around to emailing them, and that is the information we are going to be going over. Purchased this upper back in 2023, MK2 BFH 14.5 enhanced lightweight. Lightweight barrels offer about 5 ounces of weight savings and will run fine with a suppressor, but we usually do not recommend running a lightweight barrel suppressed, as some folks are bothered by the POI shifts they see when using or removing the suppressor. Government barrels are usually the preferred profile of barrel to install a suppressor. We can already see some shifting of the blame and lack of accountability. I think it's more than reasonable for people to be bothered by point of aim and point of impact shifts from the barrel itself. Nowhere on the BCM website or the product listing for the ELW upper or barrel does it say that BCM does not recommend suppressing these barrels. They are recommending the government profile for suppressor use, but without looking up what barrel profile is best for suppressors, nobody is going to know that, which is another thing that is not listed on their website. They do tend to shift more than a government profile does when the suppressor is added or removed. Many end users prefer less shift and opt for a heavier profile to mitigate it. I don't know who's going to prefer more shift or any shift. There are many customers who do suppress their ELW barrels without issue. We want to make sure that the end users are aware of the limitations and potential drawbacks, which I also have heard that there are people suppressing the ELW barrels that aren't having the problems or they haven't noticed them. They mentioned spreading awareness, but where's the awareness being spread? That seems like a direct lie to the face. Years or months after I buy the product, it's already purchased, it's already pinned and welded. How is that spreading awareness or helping me at all if I'm getting my information from Reddit, have to come back and confirm with the company? The additional shift from the ELW profile will depend on the weight and design of the suppressor. Some suppressors have internal designs which affect trajectory, which makes it impossible for us to predict the actual impact shift based on weight alone. The best bet is to configure your upper and fire it both suppressed and unsuppressed and measure the difference. Another company using its customers as lab rats, I'm sure they've heard feedback before and obviously haven't cared enough to make a difference. For most people, they're going to use it and then it's going to start having problems at a time that is the worst time possible. That is some terrible advice, to configure it this way with a heavy surefire suppressor and then see what happens. Well, I already pin and welded it. Generally speaking, the amount of additional mechanical shift of an ELW versus a government profile of the same length can be 1 or more inches at 100 yards, depending on the weight of the suppressor. Depending on the weight of the suppressor doesn't help me at all. All I can really go off is that heavy suppressors like the Surefire one are going to have more of an effect. It doesn't make sense for the consumer to be the one trying to test this when they don't have the best way to test it. 1 or more inches added from the barrel alone. That is a big difference between the ELW and the government profile. Suppressors already have POI shift, and even great ones like Surefire suppressors who have an inch or less at 100 yards, when removing and putting the suppressor back on, that now takes us up to 2 or more inches at 100 yards, and then that's just going to stack down the line. If it's 2 inches at the least at 400 yards, we're going to be looking at an 8-inch deviation, and that is easily a miss. Thinner barrel profiles tend to become heat soaked more quickly. A lower mass will tend to heat more rapidly when exposed to the same energy as a higher mass object. As barrels heat beyond 300 degrees Fahrenheit, they become less stiff and will tend to droop more, further increasing the shift. A noticeable amount of shift tends to begin after around 3 magazines of steady 1 per second fire. That would take about 1:30 plus reloads. In addition to more shift, group sizes can noticeably grow due to the same loss of stiffness. By noticeable, we mean 50 to 100% larger groups than normal. For example, a 1.5 inch group may grow to 2.25 to 3 inches, and a 0 to 3 inch shift may become a 0 to 6 inch shift. Not only are we getting 50 to 100% bigger group sizes that are growing by 0.75 inches or 1.5 inches, but we are also getting almost double the point of impact shift. That's a pretty crazy combination to have point of impact shift and groups opening up at the same time. There's no way that the normal person is going to be able to reliably test that and figure out what is manageable and what's not. It may happen sooner if shooting faster and may happen later if shooting more slowly. Conditions can also affect this, meaning that on a cold and windy day, the barrel may stay cooler for longer, while a very hot day with no wind may result in the barrel heating slightly more rapidly. When the barrel cools, the POI tends to return to 0, but this can also be influenced by the peak temperatures reached and the amount of weight on the muscle. Ammunition will also have some effect. Holy crap. So the average BCM owner is going to buy this, configure it, if they even know that this is happening, and then somehow test. Not only do we have temperature of the barrel, we have rate of fire, group sizes opening up, point of impact shift, temperatures and conditions for that day, the barrel cooling and whether it's returning to zero or not, and then what ammunition you're shooting. That is a ton of variables. With a heavy enough suppressor, pretty much like this Surefire here, the amount of droop can result in the gas block making contact on the inside of the handguard. When this happens, it can have a significant impact on accuracy. A shorter barrel or lighter suppressor makes this less likely though, but a heavier barrel profile often eliminates it. How much weight you can have on that barrel, no information there. Pretty vague besides the factors that can influence it. Now we are up to another 2 with the weight of the suppressor and then the length of the barrel. If an upper is not intended for hard use, meaning constant strings of fire and running hot, and the suppressor is on the lighter end of the market, then you may not have any issues running a suppressor on our ELW profiles. If you're not firing this full auto or a ton of rounds through it, if the suppressor is on the lighter end, well, what's the lighter end? Nothing there. If you don't plan on beating the crap out of this thing, well, that's kind of what I thought BCM was for. I guess not. We also offer a medium contour, their enhanced medium weight fluted barrel, which is well suited for suppressor use when weight is a factor. The EMW profile uses the larger gas block perch and is not as slim as our ELW. This means it performs well when suppressed. It is also true that since the enhanced mid-weight is a lightened profile, it will heat soak sooner and likely show more dispersion and droop than a heavier profile. Our goal with the EMW was to offer an optimized profile that retains as much stiffness as possible while offering some weight reduction. They don't have them in the MK2 since there is still the heat soak variable, dispersion, and droop factor. When compared to a heavier profile, that doesn't make me any more confident to go with that. Might as well just go back to the government profile. It's a slight step up from the ELW because it's the mid-weight. This question relates to their ending statement on what I just read. Why is this information, or at least basic recommendation against using the ELW for suppression, not listed on the BCM website and the ELW listings? Trying to sell gun stuff is not only hard, but you end up taking a loss of money. Then they said, we will consider adding a note to the ELW barrel pages. Consider adding a note. I think this is a massive problem that should almost be slapped on the front page or every page of BCM's website, so you're not fooling tons of customers and scamming them out of money. Notice they say consider because they're likely not going to do it. Just another company who is going to prioritize money over everything. They don't care if somebody gets into battle with this and they start missing shots because they have POI and groupings opening up. They just want to sell an upper and get whatever profit margin they're trying to hit. We have always assumed that most customers would understand the trade-offs that come with thinner versus thicker profiles. That's pretty ridiculous to assume that your customers, people who are automatically going to be less knowledgeable than you on your own products, are somehow going to understand the thinner versus thicker profiles of your barrels. Because there's other companies that make thinner barrels like Criterion or like the Geisley profile, which isn't the government profile, but can still do well when suppressed. Them saying we assumed that the customer would know, again, blame shifting and not taking accountability. We apologize for any issue that may have caused. I don't believe that at all, because if they were truly sorry about this, and I'm sure it's been brought up before, they would have at least notified people, put it on their website, put it on all the ELW product listings, the barrels. You may still find that performance is acceptable. Yeah, it might be acceptable at the range, but when I have to use it or I have to do some serious training and then it craps out on me, that's not acceptable. What is acceptable for self-defense weapons is that it is reliable and performs all the time. That is the point of going with somebody like BCM, because you're the benchmark. A lot of people will go with BCM because they think they'll be set up and not have to worry about stuff. Let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Yeah, I got plenty of concerns. I think it would be honorable and honest to add more information. People want to follow manufacturer recommendations. If the manufacturer recommendation isn't publicly stated on the listing, how can we follow it? I think it's a big jump in conclusion going from understanding ELW to not being able to use a suppressor on the ELW. I think it takes a deeper understanding of barrel profiles, specifically BCMs and what they have going on there. Might be acceptable, but there's no way I'm able to test that thoroughly enough to know. That's why most of us civilians rely heavily on manufacturer recommendations and information. I've noticed that some of your product listings aren't very informative. For example, the vertical grip doesn't give a height. The AT mount doesn't give the exact center line to rail measurement for the lower 1/3. It literally just says 1/3 to save us from losing money or making bad purchases. That is what this entire channel is about, to help you guys save money and not make bad purchases to the best of my abilities. But these companies, they don't care at all if you make a bad purchase. All they care about is lining their pockets. I've seen it more and more and more in the firearms industry, where you would think that there would be some level of respect or looking out for one another. If in any industry at all, you would think it would be in the firearm industry, and it's not. It pushes the forward assist forward, and it helps with some gas dispersion inside, which is actually kind of nice. Regarding the BFH ELW, BFH is for their cold hammer forged barrels, which is independent from the profile. ELW refers only to the contour, which is pretty much the shape of the barrel. We offer ELW and without fluting, EMW-F when fluted, and in button drawn, as well as hammer forged rifling. Hammer forging creates a more durable bore, better suited to higher volumes of fire. They will perform nearly identical to button drawn barrels when it comes to mechanical stiffness. Nearly, so what's the variance there? Who knows? The BFH would not cancel out the thinner profile when it comes to stiffness. A little bit more accuracy, but mainly you're just extending your barrel life. Some information, such as sight height, is not directly published because that information is often misinterpreted despite our best efforts to offer it clearly. That's the biggest bullcrap. I don't know how you can misinterpret sight height, especially if you can give a demonstration from the rail to the center line of whatever optic that is being mounted. That's super lazy. Companies in general, they try to give the least amount of information as possible, because the less information you have, the more likely you would be to buy that product, instead of if you have information or learn about something, you might be less likely to buy that. For example, on the AT, with them only listing the 1/3, it was like a 153 instead of your common like 157, going to be a slight offset from your red dot to your magnifier. That is good to know. I want them to line up perfectly. I don't want any extra added variable. More dishonest behavior, and all it comes back to is greed. We strive to be very responsive to our customers, and in many cases, would prefer they reach out with questions so we can make sure they get a complete understanding to their particular case. I will say that BCM's customer service, they do respond well. I should not have to reach out to a company to ask questions I don't know about when they can list information on the pages. Pretty much this is what they're saying. We prefer customers to reach out to us with unknown questions so then we can halfway answer the question. That's nonsense. We realize this is not ideal for everyone. It's literally ideal for nobody but BCM. We have found it tends to create fewer issues than the alternative. It doesn't create any fewer issues with us. Our recommendation against it is because the ELW was not designed with the weight of a suppressor in mind. All the way at the bottom of the email, I finally found out that the ELW was not designed for the weight of the suppressor in mind. And again, not listed on their website about any of that. Thank you. Have a good weekend. They're obviously trying to end the conversation. None of these people like to be held accountable. It is pretty ridiculous how much people in today's society run away from accountability. I do not recommend the enhanced lightweight if you are planning to use a suppressor or planning to ever get a suppressor in your lifetime, especially if you don't want to sell your upper. It's way too big of a gamble with variable on variable. Stacking these tolerances, or in this case, you are stacking variables, and then you are bound to have problems. If you're not using a Surefire suppressor and you're using a very light suppressor on the lighter end of the market, you might be okay, but your best chances are that you might as well go roll the dice or flip a coin. It is not a dependable and sure investment. If you're not planning to run suppressed, you should be good to go. Even with all those issues, it still kind of steers me away from the ELW. It just depends what you are planning to use your upper for. If you do have the ELW, you've been running it hard, using it for a long time, a lot of rounds, suppressing any of these type of variables that you've put it through, feel free to comment, because I am interested to hear, and I'm sure that other people would like to hear about that as well. It has gone up $120 in the last 2.5 years. That's a pretty decent jump, with it being $915 now and including the BCM bulk carrier group. For my purposes at this time, I would not get this again, especially at this price point, because we are getting into the price range of other uppers that I think offer a little bit more value. It does not come with a charging handle. That is going to be another add-on to the price. If you're doing something like a 14.5 here like I am, the Surefire 3-prong and other muzzle devices that they would pin and weld for you so you don't have to pay for that service. Almost half of those muzzle devices are never in stock. I ended up shipping it to Adco Firearms. I bought the Surefire 3-prong muzzle device, had to pay for the shipping on that. Then I had to ship it to Adco, which for this upper, that's going to be another $20 some at least because of the weight. Then you have to pay for the service, which is $85. So you're at least another $100 there. For this upper with nothing on it, just to get it pinned and weld, it would cost at least $1,152, looking closer towards $1,200 with the shipping. Geisley Super Duty pricing. For this same one, it would cost the same, although it comes pin and welded with a Huxworks flash hider. Just depends what suppressor you're trying to go with. You might have to get the upper and send that out anyways, which at that point, getting the Super Duty would be a better bang for your buck because you're getting ambi-QDs, better profile, way better bolt carrier group, ACH charging handle, which is a nice charging handle to come stock. Another one, ADM, their uppers about $1,300, more configuring them the way you want. Criterion barrel, you can swap out different things, muzzle device, charging handle at request. Was looking to see which uppers had the government barrel profile, and again, their product listing information is terrible. For this upper, it'll say enhanced lightweight, and then it'll say barrel profile at the top, enhanced lightweight. For your BFH standard, BFH MK2, or your MK2 standard, it doesn't say any barrel profile at all. You don't get clear information without having to take an extra step, which is annoying to reach out to BCM. The upper groups you listed below have a government profile barrel. Any profile other than a government profile barrel will have the profile listed and the product name and SKU. Is this another assumption? We're supposed to know how their website works. Super lazy from a well-known company. Tons of room for very easy improvement. This literally doesn't help anybody by the way they structure this. Trusted company like BCM, and you're finding out all this non-integrity behavior. I made the video about Geisley and Radian doing the exact same thing. Surefire, SIG, and the names are on, and these are all top companies. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about where it doesn't make sense to have that undying loyalty to these people who clearly do not put the best interest of the customer first. Made this to help spread awareness. For me, this is a mistake. If you want to see more videos like this, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to help support the channel, and thank you for watching.